Okay, guys, so now that you understood about the different phases about a threat intelligence researcher, let's focus on those specific steps. Okay, so let's start with hunting. Let's see what it is in detail. Okay, so my name is Daniel Regalado. By this time, probably you already know about me, lead author of Grey Hat Hacking Book. Okay, so this is the agenda. We're going to talk about VirusTotal, what you can do there, hacking forums, what are the risks, the challenges that you need to take care of, deep web, what it is, how you can surf it, why you need to surf it, OSINT, some details, and the summary. Okay, so we are in the first phase, as you remember, which is the hunting thing. So let's see what we got here. Okay, so the goal. So the goal of hunting is techniques to collect samples from different sources so that can help us to start profiling malicious threat actors. As I said, if there is no samples, we cannot do anything. We need to have a hunting strategy well defined. Okay, so VirusTotal, as I said, here is as I said, it was owned by Google. It is actually owned by Google, and there is a service called Intelligence. So if you pay for that service, you can log in into the VirusTotal, not only search or upload samples, but you can also log in. And as you can see here, you can even search for specific tags like Zbot or any other tag, and you will get all the samples related to that tag. And there are many other searchers by MD5, of course, even by Yara rules that we're going to see in a second. But then at the end of the day, you can even download those samples. It's not something that is not allowed by a public usage, by public users without paying for this service. Okay, so that's pretty cool. You can use the API and automate it. It is, as I said, it is a paid service, allows you to hunt via Yara rules and to download the samples. You can use the API provided by them to automate this whole process. And you can find everything in VirusTotal. I mean, I don't know why people submit all different things. It's a well-known service worldwide, so as soon as someone thinks they are infected, you can see there multiple things, like licensed software being uploaded because they just bought it, but they think they are infected. They can upload the full software and, you know, someone can download it and use it, unfortunately. IRS taxes. We have found documents with social security numbers uploaded, not malicious, but people think might be infected. Love letters also is the case. Why? But the point is, it's not even malicious, but people upload it. Victim emails, very important. So we can see also emails coming to a specific organization, so the guys just grab the email, upload it to VirusTotal to see if it is malicious, because sometimes it comes with attachments. That's also another very interesting feature that we can extract attachments from those emails and scan them or analyze them. Okay, very good content strategy. Yara rules hunting. As I said, Yara rule is a technique or a tool I think was created by VirusTotal. I'm not sure, but definitely they maintain it nowadays. And it's pretty cool. You can search if you, as I said, if you attended the Malicious Software Defender certification, you will see some examples there. Pretty cool in detail. Okay, so you can, every match that you get in VirusTotal via those Yara rules, they can send you an email as soon as you find a new sample. You can use a new feature, well, it's not new, but a feature which is called Retro Hunt, which is basically you can also take your Yara rule for a new piece of malware that you found, wrote the Yara rule, and scan all the database for previous samples found. That's pretty cool because you can also find when this specific piece of malware, which eventually might turn into a group, malicious group, started doing these things. Here is just an example for you guys to know what it is Yara rule. As I said, it is not the scope of this training, but so that you have an idea, it's just a Yara rule defining a specific strings, or even you put opcodes, which means bytes, inside the binary, so you can hunt for specific samples. Okay, and as I said, as soon as you get a hit, it is sent it to your email address. Hello guys, so welcome to the hunting course. So here guys is, as you remember, it is the first phase of our threat intelligence effort. So in this first step is actually very important. We're gonna be giving you some examples of hunting in VirusTotal. For your information, you're gonna have access to VirusTotal Intelligence. We have access for the students, so you will be able to play with this excellent framework where we can use it as a hunting strategy. And definitely I'm gonna explain you all the different ways you can hunt for either potential 0 days, or you can hunt for specific families, and then therefore start gathering information about samples so that eventually we can start trying to identify specific features, static, dynamic features, and eventually start clustering, and then, you know, getting towards the identification of the threat actors and, you know, taking down in a real scenario. So let's start with VirusTotal. In this case, you can see that we have, this is the website, this is our Defender account, and you have pretty simple interface. In the left side, upper left side, you have the search, which is the menu, which you can just search for many different types of samples. We're gonna see that in a second. You have many different operands or keywords that you can use in order to search for specific families, specific file types, sizes, and all different imp hashes, and all, you know, SSDIP filters, everything that we learn in our slides. So here we will have also another option, which is hunting. So we're gonna get back to this search option, but let me just give you a quick view of the remaining sections. So hunting, when we click on it, this one is going to allow you to add Yara rules. As you remember, you learned how to create Yara rules. We are going to be creating all the way around Yara rules. We use Yara rules also in the Cybersecurity and Malicious Software Defender certification. We use Yara rules for hunting here. It is everywhere. So at this point, I hope that you know about Yara rules, but otherwise, don't worry. Just check out the Malicious Software Defender certification so that you can learn more. Here, for example, we can say add, and here you're gonna put the Yara rule name and then the content right here in the box. And once you are done with the Yara rule, you can even click on settings, and here you can put your email here, you know, wherever is your email, and then every time there is a hit, which means your Yara rule found a sample, is going to send you a notification to your email. Now, the way it works is that every time a new file is submitted, if it matches your Yara rule, it will be sent to you, right? So, but that makes us think that these Yara rules that we're adding are going to be applicable only for new samples. What about if we want to search for previous samples from 2 months ago, 3 months ago, or even years ago? So VirusTotal implemented a really cool feature called RetroHunt, which we can see right here. RetroHunt is going to allow you to run Yara rules against all the samples in the VirusTotal database. To be honest, I don't know how long back in the day it's going to be scanned. That's something that only VirusTotal knows. I bet must be just a few years, otherwise it's impossible. But definitely must be a real huge range, at least 5 years or more. Here you can see that we have already a rule that we were using in our course. We're going to talk about that later, and eventually this RetroHunt is going to throw you the results. It's going to send you an email message, and you can download all the hashes identified with your Jara rule. Okay. We also have here a scan file. That's the normal way to upload a file and scan it. The notifications, any notification that hits in your Jara rule is going to be listed here. And as I showed before, the rule sets, which is going to be all the rules that we want to add. Here, you can also disable the rule or delete it if you don't need it anymore. Finally, you can also share the rule with other people. Okay, so that's all about hunting, which is pretty cool. You can just go search and try to find interesting samples based on your needs. Let's go to clustering. In the clustering section, that's basically clusters created by VirusTotal. It is only applicable for portable executables, PDF files, Office documents, and RTF files so far. And basically what they do is that they create a hash, house or homemade hash, which VirusTotal call it bhash, which is just basically gathering characteristics from, for example, from binaries, like the imports, exports, sections, file size, all those static features they will gather, and then they will create clusters. And then those clusters, you can always use it. You can always analyze them if you want to take a look at them. Those are based on a daily basis, and you can filter by date. Like, for example, if we click on, let's say in this list, let's go down, let's check Sality, which is a file infector. If we click on it, it will go and search for the bhash associated with that cluster. As you can see there, 0160 blah blah blah. This is the whole hash, and just in this specific date, right? So then you will have the cluster with all the files, and then the right side you will always have the selection. You can select all or invert the selection, and then you can download based on the selection, which is going to wrap up into a zip file. Let's say that we click on this guy and we click download selection, and it's going to just start trying to gather that specific sample, and it's going to download it via zip file. That's another very cool feature from VirusTotal, because if you don't have an account like this, you can always first of all, you cannot search for those different criterias, and you will never be able to download samples for studying. Okay, also, so that you know, guys, you might be reading the disclaimer when you sign up for this course. Anything coming out of this specific lab, if you find some interesting sample, you download it as part of our lab, and you find something interesting, you should always give credits first to VirusTotal, and obviously second to Cybersecurity Think Tank. Please, that's kind of a thanks and an ethical way to say I found this because of this framework that was allowed by VirusTotal and Cybersecurity Think Tank. Okay, so here if you click on download zip, it's just gonna, download it into your machine. Okay, and what else? So that's pretty much it in clustering. Here you can have other options. You can click on this specific arrow, which is gonna download only that specific file. You can see in this second one, which is all the detections from the different AV vendors. Probably I should have said that since the beginning. You know that probably. This VirusTotal is just about AVs, antiviruses. Okay, it is around 53 vendors, which they will help to detect if it is malicious. And finally, this specific search icon is to search for similar samples, okay, based on the SSDIP hash, We will see that in a second. Or let's do it right now. I want to click on this guy here, and you can see that it's going to say similar to, and it's going to create, based on a hash, it's going to start trying to find all the different samples that are related to the first file that we choose, which is pretty cool because then we can expand and expand. Let's say that you found one certain interesting sample, you can click in search for similar, and then that's gonna try to find similar samples based on the B hash, which is going, sorry, I said before SSDIP, no, in this case it's based on the B hash, and that one is gonna help you to identify similar samples that you can cluster in your own database. Okay, so let's go back to search. So let's just go, and before starting our exercises, let's just understand quickly how we can search. So you can go to learn more always, and here you will have the full documentation of what you can do with all the different keywords. For example, you can say a specific size that you want to search for. You can search for a type. As you can see here, you can search for executables, DLLs with PEDLL, executables with PEXE, or MC, or even Linux, or Mac OS. You can search for internet files, flash, email. You can search for images, video, documents, bundles, which is archives, as you can see there in the first section. So you can search for all those types. We're gonna see how we can do that. You can search also for filters by first submission, which is the keyword FS, and you can see examples here. You can say first submission in 2009. Okay, you can search for the last submission, which is LS, or last analysis, which is LA. Positives is pretty cool because positives is gonna tell you how many antiviruses detected it. Let's say that you say positive equal 10 plus, that means at least 10 antiviruses detected that specific sample. That can help you to filter out malicious files. So let's say that you say that you want positives 30 plus. That's saying that almost more than half of the antiviruses detected it as malicious. It's kind of basically saying that you are detecting a malicious file for sure. Okay, so the second one is another option is positives 1 minus. I'm gonna tell you how you can do that, and that's gonna tell you that it's gonna be detected only one time. Those are kinda good for latest exploits or latest binaries that are able to bypass antiviruses because they have been detecting only one. But you can find other tricks to make sure that those are malicious. I mean, the fact that it was detected only one probably means that it's not malicious. But what if you put another tag, let's say in might be an exploit? So an exploit which is tagged by VirusTotal as an exploit, and at the same time is just detected once, might be something interesting because might be an exploit that is not being detected properly by the AV community. Okay, so I mean, feel free to dig with all those different types because it's a lot. Also the tag is also interesting because you can put like search for something that is 64 bits, something that has a CVE assigned, you know. The antiviruses can put that, oh, this is a CVE, I don't know, 2014 RTF1. So VirusTotal is gonna recognize that and it's gonna tag that specific sample with the CVE. So if you say that you want CVE, it's gonna search for those. If it is trusted, if it is signed, you know, by a certificate, if it is an attachment, if it is an exploit, as I said, the file is or makes use of an exploit. As I said, is something that can be useful for searching. You know, and there are many other ones. Feel free, as I said, to go through them. And you can also identify document specific ones like macros, like only embedded, you know, when you have another object inside the RTF file. Many themes like PowerShell, which is very common. We're gonna see an example in a second. Nowadays, PowerShell is being used to bypass antiviruses very effectively. If it is Flash, if it has an action script, you know, pickups, pretty cool. You can also search for pickups that has some specific information, and if they have information about whatever you are searching for, you will be also trying to find pickups, malicious pickups. Okay. Under the specific, as I said, submissions, sources. Sources means the different people that upload those samples. You can say sources 2. That means 2 different people upload that specific sample. Submissions means how many times that sample was submitted. Also, submitter means the country where it was submitted. Like CN, you need to use the two letters country code, like CN for China. ITW, which means in the wild. In other words, how you can search for in the wild URLs, in the wild names, or those samples that were downloaded from a specific URL, which is pretty powerful. Metadata and language, you know, signatures. As I said, imports, exports with the specific names. So all those things can be searched here. Of course, as you remember, guys, we talk about SSDIP, we talk about imp hash. Again, you can always search here for that. And let's start with that actually right here. If we click on, let's see this example, SSDIP. Let's say that you find a specific binary which has an SSDIP. SSDIP is calculated for binaries mainly. So here we're looking for SSDIP with that specific calculated value, and it's gonna list all the ones sharing. In this case, you can see right away the size is kinda the same size, 1.3 megabytes, which also kinda tells you that might be something related. Obviously, it's pretty strong just by looking for SSDIP, because as you remember, SSDIP is gonna kinda extract specific instructions inside the binary. So okay, it can be solid to find new samples. Okay, so now let's go with other specific samples that I have right here, guys. So this is the first one. So in this case, we're searching for the type, which is PDF. We're searching for only PDFs where the positives, in other words, the detections are at most 1 or less, and which has a tag of exploit. In other words, here is kind of hunting for either 0 days, which is not very common to find it in VirusTotal, but there has been cases definitely, or you can find exploits which are bypassing AVs, which is also very interesting. So in this case, we are saying, give me the ones that has lower detection, but that has an exploit behavior. So it's kind of weird to have something that might be an exploit and is not detected, right? So that's the reason we did that here. So if you click on the first one, for example, sorry, you don't need to click on it. If we go to the second one, it says that Trend Micro detected it as a CVE 2009-0658. So that gives us a clue that if Trend Micro is accurate, we might be finding a very interesting sample able to bypass almost all the AV samples. And then we can start clicking on it and search, for example, for the submissions to see where it was submitted from. By the way,
if I remember properly, whenever you see this specific API with this specific source coming from France, actually it is VirusTotal. Don't be confused. It's a uh, very known way to get confused. But this specific API and the country, if I remember well, it is VirusTotal. Okay, so write it down. That means it's not someone malicious, right? So let's go through all these different tabs. So in the first tab we have obviously the information about the file, you know, the tags, first submission, when it was first submitted, when it was last submitted, the detection ratio, you know, SSDIP. If we click on this SSDIP, it's gonna give us all the PDFs that are related, that has similar code inside. Okay, if you want to start clustering, we have details. This is pretty cool because if VirusTotal can parse it for you, if it has some interesting objects. So here you can see that VirusTotal is saying that it has 188 pages, streams, and the MIME type is PDF. The toolkit, nothing much. The content, all the content, you can also have the hexadecimal or the strings. If you want to see the content of that specific sample, you can also go to analysis. In analysis, you can see who detected it. As we saw before, it was Trend Micro. Submissions, as I said before, this looks like it's from France, which looks like is VirusTotal. Let me do a quick search. Let's check here, guys. VirusTotal. Sometimes I was trying to find in internet someone talk about that API. Interesting here, guys. You see, Hacking Team. Do you remember Hacking Team? Hacking Team was a company dedicated to sell services for government, mainly to spy on customers. And this interesting one has our API. Here it is. First source, first country. As I said, guys, I'm pretty confident this is VirusTotal API, which means the API submitted that sample. But anyways, I don't wanna get out of our talk. Okay, guys, so ITW is in the wild. That means in the wild, which is pretty cool. You can see the first submission, last submission, and here you can see that it was submitted with this bundle. Bundle means an archive, probably zip file, but also it will give you a lot of context, like what is the name seen in the wild, other names. If it comes as an email, it's gonna help you to have more context. It's pretty cool. Comments, if there is any comment from this VirusTotal community, it will help you to say, hey, I confirm this is this specific family, or here is being another URL where it's been downloaded. It is always useful. Okay, so we close it, and that's pretty much it. One interesting one here is this, guys. Zero detection, but is tagged as an exploit, and no one is detecting it. So we can always click on this guy, go to submissions. In this case, it's the same API, ITW, and here is where it came from. And just check the name, CVE 2009. So looks like it's a well-known CVE exploit, but for some reason, it's not been detected. Either it's corrupted, or it is a joke, or it is actually an exploit that is not being detected by the AV community. It's pretty interesting. Okay, guys, as I said, you can always click on these file names, but you can always click on this button, which is similar files, and we can say, hey, give me similar files that were also found, like this one. And you can see that it found some of them that also has lower detection. Like this guy has 5. Let's see which ones. It says exploit shellcode. Okay, and just check. Let's check who is the submitter here. In this case, it's a US company. It is an API. Normally, when you see an API, it looks like a vendor. When you see here web, might be a threat actor, but depends on the cases. We can see the second one. Again, submissions, another API, and you can see, guys, that we can start identifying more and more samples, right? All of these ones are 0 detected, but you can see that these ones doesn't have the tag exploit. That means those might be benign ones, but these ones which has the exploit might be interesting ones. Okay, guys, so we're gonna be doing some exercises. So let's go to the next sample. This one is pretty cool. Is the tag is attachment. Basically, we are saying give me the samples that were seen as being sent through email as an attachment, which, as you know, is a very well-known way to infect customers via spear phishing attacks or spam emails. They send attachment, malicious attachment. So we are here saying give me the ones seen as attachments, and not only that, also give me the ones that are type docx. So let's check the first one. We click here. Again, it's gonna give us information about that specific file, the file type, the detection radio, first submission, last submission, the details. This one is pretty cool because it's gonna parse the compound binary format if it is the case. In this case, is the latest XML version of Office documents. But here, if you go down, let me show you these all the characteristics. You can see, I mean, everything related. And here is what I wanted to show you guys. Here, for example, it is a compound format. Sorry, it is a zip file containing all these different details, and you click on the first one and it's gonna say, oh, this one is detected 17 out of 54. So 17 is kind of high, so it's kind of helping you to confirm that this might be malicious. And even if you click here, it's gonna open another window for you, and it's gonna start querying that specific file, which is gonna tell you details inside it, like in this case, who were the guys detecting it. Okay, so you can go deep and deep and deep and deep. Okay, so let's go back to the option. So you can keep going through the other different components. So basically, it's just helping you to see if the component is already identified as malicious, and you don't need to run it at this point. Okay, those files contained the content as we saw, the analysis, submissions. Again, we can see who submitted and from where, the names, new order list, and these are the APIs. And this guy, the web, might be interesting. We can write down the submitter ID. That's called submitter ID. Is the person who submitted the file, which is VirusTotal basically calculates the source based on country and based on IP. Might be other checks, but basically are those. And because of that, it can assign IDs even without knowing who is behind. But we can use those IDs, guys, and do some interesting tracking. If we find a threat actor submitting files to VirusTotal, we can just sit and watch for that source ID to upload new samples, and we're gonna be tracking the new campaigns, right? There is an API, by the way, with VirusTotal that we can always use to search for source submitter IDs, which is this case. And here is something pretty cool that I wanted to show you guys. In the wild, it's gonna see, for example, here, this file has been spotted in the wild traveling as an email attachment, and it's gonna give us the context how it arrives. Here are the in the wild names, as you can see, and here we can see the email, the actual email, guys, like subject enclosed purchase order from Charles, coming from supposedly Ready Chemical Foam to undisclosed recipients. So probably here VirusTotal is just not displaying it. I don't know, probably sensitive data. And here, if you click on this one, this is the actual email, the EML file that has all the details, and you can see the headers if you want to analyze the headers, how it arrives. This is the classical base64 information, which normally is the content. So as you can see, here are other recipients, so we can see that even the content, dear Lisa, subject purchase order, please find and close the purchase order, regards, is supposed to come from Thailand. So you can see that we have the full context, guys, and with this context is exactly what we need in order to start profiling, in order to go from gathering just samples randomly to start kind of understanding the threat actors, the countries, the techniques, and then start profiling all this information towards identifying specific behaviors, specific techniques and tools being used in order to identify a threat actor. Okay, guys, comments, check this. The community says, okay, this is the submit name. They put some heuristics here, and anyways, okay, guys, so that's pretty useful, also highly recommended. Let's check another sample. This one, for example, is give me all the ones that has macros, also that are using PowerShell, also that has the tag download, which means are being seen downloading other things from internet. And I only want doc files, and all of the ones that has at least 10 detections. You see? So we get these samples, and if you click on the first one, you can see again all the details here. You know, this is pretty cool, guys, because since it is a macro, here VirusTotal can parse the macro and even give you right away the source code of the macro. By the way, the source code of the macro is pretty easy to get it. We will see that in our lab. You can use SIGTool from ClamAV open source antivirus, which you can, it's just a command line where you can just extract right away the source code. But there are many other ways. It's just a standard, it's a format, well-known format, so it's pretty easy. But here with VirusTotal, we can right away see, check this trick, CMDK P concatenated with power, concatenated with shell, concatenated with LXC. Then all the options to execute hiddenly, and then go and download from this site another script, PowerShell script. And you can see that the peace-law top dl.php site might be a compromised website, might be a C2 IP, and it is where we start digging, understanding, and trying to see. By the way, we also have other different labs to pivot based on domains, based on IPs, based on threat actors, based on metadata, so that we can start identifying and clustering the information. Okay, guys, it's pretty cool. And well, as always, all other information, we can see the submissions, where they were submitted from, all with the same name, the dates. First time was around January 25th, last time was February 5th. Might be a campaign, as you can see. When we set a campaign, it's because looks like it's going on, looks like it's being repeated all the time. When you see potential threat actors uploading, those files are normally for testing, but when you see a community also checking it, is because probably some customers are being infected, and that means it's something making noise in the wild and might be a campaign. Okay, guys. And finally, we have this one, which is just based on submitter, which in this case we're saying from China. Give me all submissions just from China, where the type is doc, and it is at least 10 detections or more, and also has a tag and as an exploit. So if we click on this guy and we go to submissions, we can see that here are at least one submission from China, right? We can always say here MX, for example, from Mexico. There is nothing. Thanks God my country is not being attacked. I'm obviously joking. Let's say PDFs. Great. Let's say +1. Okay. Let's say US. There you go. So okay, yeah, probably yes, there is no such targets in Mexico yet. So here we are saying the same, submitted from US, but now the type is PDF, and at least one detection, but we can narrow it down to, let's say, at least 33 detections, something that is really and clearly malicious. And you can see that we will get in ratio 33 detections or more, which is kind of forcing to only list the ones that are being detected. So you see, guys, that it is very powerful. VirusTotal, we are gonna have some exercise for you guys, and this can definitely help us to establish a really good strategy, hunting strategy, to start gathering samples based on an investigation, based on an incident, or even proactively. Just go grab something that is latest, that is not being detected, and start adding detection, or start sending newsletters to our CEOs, the top managements, so that we know about the latest threats. So see you in the next lab.
Second thing, or place where you can try to hunt for hacking related samples or malware or exploits, is the hacking forums. But something here interesting is that normally you can see hacking forums all around, right? If you go to Google and you put hacking forum, you will find many of them. But those are not the ones we're talking about. Those ones are just people, discussing about techniques and probably sharing some knowledge, but we are going after real criminals, which is not those hacking forums that we know, okay? The ones that I'm talking about are found in deep web or different hidden services, which we're going to talk about deep web in a second, and those are the places where you might find really interesting things. But there are some things that you need to consider. Darkcode. Darkcode was a hacking forum, very famous, where people used to exchange information. They used to also provide source code, selling, marketing, everything. Organized crime, definitely, but it was just invitation only, okay? So that means you cannot just go and say, oh, I want to get an account into this forum and start seeing what's going on. It's not that easy. You need to be invited. But if you want to be invited, you need to prove you have some criminal activity or you have something to share. Guys, I have this piece of rat or any other Trojan, that I have the source code. Here you go, guys. So you need to give them something of proof criminal activity so that they can allow you to get in. Of course, that's because they want to be protected. Okay, dark code. So hacking forums, as I said, allows the investigators to step up to date with the new malware. You're going to see there that they are discussing about this new piece of malware, even a new campaign, or new changes, new techniques, everything. You're up to date. But as I said, it's not easy to get in. You can get a copy of a new piece of malware, which is also not easy. Learn new techniques. Direct contact with real exploit malware or malware authors. That sounds like nice, but at the same time, it's risky. You will see why. Direct contact with criminals. You know, you're going to be talking with criminals, but it's not that wonderful. Okay, so what are the challenges if you want to start digging into hacking forums? Okay, so you must create, first of all, a fake profile, right? You need to have a second life, virtual life, so that people think you are who you supposed to be. You know, I mean, you're going to tell them that you're a guy from probably North Korea, no, North Korea, probably from China or from Latin America, whatever you choose. But you need to build that profile so that you can convince them, okay? That entails create a new Facebook account, a new Twitter account, Instagram, Gmail, Yahoo, whatever, because they will eventually send you an email to your Gmail account, and probably you will have a Twitter account. So you need to look like it's a normal person, okay? And you must have real activity, right? I mean, if you create a Facebook account and it has just like, you know, 2 pictures and it was created 2 months ago, no one is going to believe that's real. So it takes time to build it up. If you say that you are from Venezuela and you're connecting from USA, doesn't make any sense, especially if you're connecting to the hacking forum where they know the IP address connected. So better use a proxy from Venezuela or any place that you are supposed to come in from. All this is because you want them to believe in you and then gain trust and get access. It's like, you know, like impersonating, or it's like FBI agents, they used to do that. I'm going to talk about that in a second. So they infiltrate, you know, into those networks. Do you understand that? It's like, how are you? Like, the idea of this point is that if you are connecting to an American forum, let's say that you speak English and you don't have an idea of English, and you say that you are American, no one is going to believe you. Same for Russian, right? If you want to investigate a group in Russia and you're going to use Translate, Google Translate, whatever, to translate your words into Russian, they will notice that it's not your language and it's something that they will discard you, right? Easily. So if you don't know the language, better use someone else in the team that can help with that, or choose another forum. As I said, it takes time to build a profile. You need to build a profile, but it's not that easy. And this is what I wanted to get to. High-profile forums like Darkcode, they are always FBI agents infiltrated. Not only FBI, you know, Interpol, Europol, because they are also already there infiltrated for years. They have profiles built since many years ago into those things. They actually perform malicious actions sometimes in order to gain trust, but it's them, you know. We cannot do that. As I said, Darkcode is invitation only. So if you want to get in, you need to prove you have some criminal related history. They don't want to just invite people that they don't know who they are. They want to be criminal all around to protect each other. Or you can share interesting piece of malware. You can say, hey guys, I'm not criminal, but I want to start with this thing, which is exactly the case that I'm going to describe later. But I have here this specific piece of malware, pretty cool, interesting, ready to share it with you guys to do criminal activity. That also helps you to get in. What are the risks? And this is the most important thing that you, as a malware analyst, as a threat intelligence researcher, needs to consider. You might be talking to an infiltrated FBI agent, which means you might be just, getting to the hacking forum and playing like you are a bad guy, and then you're going to be talking with a bad guy, and you're going to tell him probably, hey, let's sell exploits, and I can buy you something. And then he can ask you, okay, so what you have for me? And you can try to say, oh yeah, I have multiple exploits ready to sell, but probably that guy on the other side is an FBI agent. And just because of those words, you can be in jail next month, okay? So be careful for what you say and what you commit into those specific places. Never participate on a hacking effort. Like if they are organizing a distributed denial of service attack, you cannot actively help them. Or you cannot say, okay, I can help you to sell this or to buy from you. It's dealing with the criminals. As I said, and it's very common to know that FBI can tell you, okay, here is the exploit, but it's not malicious guys. It's just the FBI, and you're gonna get on jail. Or not to facilitate, right? Not only to sell, but also to facilitate selling or buying malware. At least 10 years of prison if developing or marketing malware. I'm not a lawyer, but in the recent news that I can show you here, there was a guy working for a company called FarEye as an intern, and he get into dark code, by the way, and by invitation only, he provided an Android malicious piece of malware. He said, let's do business. He starts selling it. But eventually, FBI was already infiltrated into that highly sophisticated forum, and they took it down. But before took it down, they knew emails, phone numbers, physical addresses, and everything. And this guy is facing 10 years in prison just because of that. Obviously, he was doing bad actions, but in that case, it was potentially looks like doing criminal activity. But if you are playing like a criminal just to get a piece of malware, I would recommend just better to avoid to do that. Let's talk about deep web. Okay, so we talk about hacking forums. Now, what is deep web? So deep web, and this is a pretty cool picture, not from my ownership, but I found it in internet, in Google Images, which really exemplifies what it is deep web. So deep web is basically, if you see at the tip of the picture, is what we all know, right? You turn on your computer, you go to YouTube, you go to all those different places, but you can see how small it is, right? But after that, it's like the sea. It's like actually the sea. You can see how big is after that. That whole thing is the deep web. In other words, internet, as we know it, is not that big is not the places that we know, It is really, really, really probably 500 times bigger of what we know. And that specific place is called deep web. That places is where porn, child pornography, or drug selling, or hitmans are really doing business. But it's very interesting to know that it is, by the way, where FBI agents are also there. So if you turn to be dealing with deep web sites, again, there might be an FBI agent searching and interacting with you. So stay in the secure site, not doing malicious activities. Okay. So let's talk about a little bit more about the deep web. It's also known as invisible web or hidden web, and the thing is that it cannot be indexed by standard search engines. Normally, Google, Yahoo, Bing, those search engines, they are able to find different websites because they can index, they can go to your website, wherever it is, and crawl it. In other words, find the different directories, pages, and put it into the database so that next time that someone asks for bags related to China and your website is selling those things, they already grab that information from your website, put it in the database, and then they can show your website. From a legitimate purpose, that's awesome because you might be offering your products in internet and you want everyone to know about it, right? But from the malicious side, if you are selling drugs, for example, or trying to hire a hitman, you don't want to be exposed. And those guys, what they do is they use different techniques. Some of them pretty simple to avoid being indexed by the search engines. For example, the robots.txt. Robots.txt is just a simple TXT file that you put in your website saying you cannot access this or this or this specific domain, these different specific directories inside my web page. Obviously, you can bypass that, right? You can say, I don't care, and just go and grab it. But there are many other techniques, right? You can, for example, the malicious guys, they can detect web crawlers, which is exactly what Google and those guys does, detect the crawler that is trying to access information from my website and just deny it. Pretty easy. Or you can also get limited access. You need to provide a credential in order to get access to the specific web. Or you need to fill out a specific form with specific details with some captchas that doesn't allow you to be going to the next step. In other words, after the captcha or the form, no one knows what it is unless you do it manually, which web crawlers cannot do, and therefore they cannot index or identify those different pages and put it into their database so that they can be searchable next time. Okay, so that's the reason it's called hidden web. Okay, as I said, might be 500 times bigger than the normal surface web. Surface web is what we call the web that we all know. Okay, you can also access it via Tor network. Tor, it is a network which is called Onion network, which is basically used for anonymous browsing. It was a project to do that, which is not that anonymous nowadays. It's well known that the government team up with some researchers, to try to break it, and to, it's always for the best option to caught criminals. But anyways, Tor network can also be used to get access to the deep web. Okay, so what you can find in the deep web, I already mentioned different examples. As I said, underground hacking forums, but these are real hacking forums, right? Not the forums like elhacker.net, which I'm not saying anything wrong about them. I'm just saying it's not a real forum for criminals. It's just guys talking about security techniques, but not in malicious way. These guys are real criminals, okay? So you can find real hacking forums there. But as I said, you need to gain your ticket into those forums. Credit debit card dumps, of course, everyone who is, stealing credit cards, they go and sell the dumps. Dumps means all different credit card numbers per, Visa, MasterCard, and per country. Those are being sold there. Child pornography, that's why FBI is there, and that's why it's good to have them, to trace these guys. Hitman hiring services. Can you imagine hiring a hitman? It's really scary, right? No one is going to say, hey, I can kill everyone, just give me a phone call. Obviously, it's something that must be hidden, and that's the reason. Okay? Drugs online for sale, it's very common also. So it's kind of, the criminal, the dark web. It's also called the dark web because of this reason. Okay? An FBI agent, of course, as I said, is always around it. Much more information you can find there. Okay? So here is just a picture of Skill Road. Skill Road was well known as a black market where mainly they were selling drugs, and it was took down some years ago. But as expected, they just created a new website. And something particular to these websites in the deep web are this extension, Onion. As you remember, when you go to a specific website, can be .com, .net, .org, but when you are searching the deep web with a Tor browser, they will use to access these Onion domain names, which is well known in the deep web. Okay.